If you'd asked me 6 months ago how my marriage was doing, I'd have said we were solid. Not perfect, no marriages, but stable. I'm Brian Hill, a mechanic in Savannah, Georgia. I work hard, keep my head down, and take pride in what I've built, my shop, my life, and for almost 10 years, my marriage to Lauren. Lauren and I met at a 4th of July barbecue. She was the kind of girl who lit up a room without trying, someone who laughed with her whole body and made you feel like the only one there. I fell hard and I fell fast. We got married 2 years later, bought a modest 2-bedroom home, and for a long time, I truly believed we were in this for life. But looking back, I can see how it started to fray. Not with a bang, but with little things. A glance that lingered too long on her phone. A coldness that slipped into her voice during breakfast. Back then, I brushed it off. Long hours, stress at work, life getting in the way. I thought it was a phase. I thought we'd get through it. Then came that Thursday evening, the one that rewired everything I believed about us. It had been a slow day at the shop. The last customer canceled their oil change, and I figured I'd call it early. Lauren loved pad thai from that little place on Bay Street, so I picked some up on the way home. Nothing fancy, just a gesture. I thought maybe we'd watch reruns of that cooking show she liked, sit on the couch like we used to, and reconnect a bit. When I walked in, the house was quiet. Too quiet. No music, no TV, no clatter in the kitchen. Just the low hum of the AC and my boots against the hardwood. I called her name, soft at first. No answer. I figured maybe she was taking a nap. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard her voice. Not loud, not playful. A whisper. Careful and urgent. He just left. We've got an hour. I stopped cold. The words didn't register right away. It took a second for my brain to catch up. Then the weight of what I just heard settled like concrete in my gut. I moved closer, slowly, like I wasn't in my own house anymore. The bathroom door was mostly closed. I could hear her pacing inside, her voice a little lower now, but still audible. I didn't catch the rest of what she said. I didn't need to. When the floor creaked beneath my foot, she must have heard it. The door swung open a few inches and we locked eyes in the mirror. I'll never forget the look on her face. She flinched. Just a tiny reaction, but it was there. A flicker of guilt, panic, something real. Then, just as quickly, she covered it up. She gave me the smile I'd seen 1,000 times before, only now it felt like it didn't belong to her. It was practiced. Hello. Oh hey, she said, her voice bright. Too bright. That was Rachel. She's having a rough day. I was just trying to calm her down. Rachel? Rachel lives in Boston. She and Lauren used to be tight back in college, but they hadn't spoken in months, not really. Maybe a birthday text here and there. Definitely not someone Lauren would talk to in whispers behind a closed bathroom door. And not someone she'd lie about seeing if she wasn't hiding something. Still, I nodded. Said nothing. What could I say? She brushed past me, phone still warm in her hand, and walked down the stairs like nothing happened. I thought you were staying late today, she called over her shoulder. I finished early, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I watched her disappear into the kitchen, acting like everything was fine, asking if I wanted to eat, telling me the pad thai smelled great, laughing too loud at her own joke. But I wasn't really listening anymore. I just stood there at the top of the stairs, staring down at her, and for the first time in years I didn't recognize the woman I married. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in like oil under a garage door, slow and thick. It starts with a moment like that one. A whisper. A name that doesn't fit. A look in her eyes that says everything she's not saying. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But something deep inside me, the part that still listens to instinct, that can smell a burnt clutch from 20 feet away, told me that whatever Lauren was into, I wasn't supposed to know about it. I went through the rest of the evening on autopilot. We sat at the table and ate in silence. She scrolled her phone between bites, occasionally smiling at something on the screen. She said it was work stuff. Her screen was angled just enough that I couldn't see it. When she went to bed early, I stayed downstairs, staring at the blank TV screen like it might tell me something. I didn't drink. Didn't turn on music. I just sat there thinking. Remembering. There was that time last month when she said she had a late client meeting but didn't bring home her laptop. The new gym membership she said was part of a wellness kick even though she used to hate the idea of working out. The perfume she'd started wearing, the one she said her coworker recommended. I never met the coworker. Hell, I couldn't even remember their name. And her phone. Always face down. Always on silent. Always password protected. I wasn't looking for reasons not to trust her. That's the part that messes with your head. I wanted to be wrong. I needed to be wrong. But I wasn't. Lying in bed that night, I watched her sleep. Her breathing was even, her expression calm, like she hadn't just whispered some stranger's name behind a locked door. That was the moment I realized I didn't know what kind of marriage I was in anymore. And worse, I wasn't sure I ever really had. Whatever I'd been ignoring, whatever I'd been too blind or too trusting to see, had just stared me in the face. It was right there in her voice, in the way she covered it up, in the way she looked through me like I was a guest in my own life. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for answers that never came. But I knew one thing for sure. Something was broken. And from that night on, I wasn't just her husband, I was a man looking for the truth. After that night, something shifted in me. I didn't confront her. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I played along. Smiled when I needed to. Nodded at the right times. I became a background character in my own house, watching her like I'd never really seen her before. Because that's the thing, once the seed of doubt is planted, you start noticing things you used to overlook. Like how she used to leave her phone charging in the kitchen at night and now it was always on her nightstand, tucked under her pillow. Or how she used to hum while cooking dinner, but lately dinner was a tossed salad and a half-hearted smile, if anything at all. I started replaying everything in my head, every odd moment I'd brushed off. I remembered about 2 months ago she came home late and said her client meeting ran long. She looked tired, but not the kind of tired that comes from work. Her lipstick was smudged. There was a crease in her dress like she'd been sitting for a long time, but not in a meeting room. That night, I noticed a faint smell on her, something masculine. Not cologne, exactly, but that mix of laundry detergent and aftershave that clings to a shirt after someone's been close. I remember asking about it lightheartedly. She just laughed it off. Ugh, probably Paul for marketing. He gives those weird side hugs to everyone. HR's gonna have a field day. I believed her. Then there was the time she said she was going to a wellness retreat with her coworkers, just a weekend getaway, no phones allowed. I helped her pack. Kissed her goodbye. She texted me once the whole weekend, saying the Wi-Fi was spotty. That didn't strike me as weird at the time. Now it screams in my head like a fire alarm. The gym thing too. That really stuck with me. Lauren's always been beautiful, but she never cared much about working out. Her idea of exercise was a long walk with a podcast. But suddenly she was obsessed with spin classes and weight training. She bought new outfits, tight ones. Posted motivational quotes about finding your power and becoming your best self. I used to love seeing her confident. Now I wondered who she was becoming confident for. And the wine bottle. That was probably the moment that should have woken me up. A few weeks ago, I went to grab my tool set from the trunk of her car. Her battery had been acting up. That's when I found it. A half-empty bottle of red, a cheap corkscrew, and 2 plastic glasses tucked into the side compartment. It looked like an impromptu picnic, but not the kind she'd ever plan with me. When I asked about it, she laughed, tossed her hair over her shoulder, and said, "Oh, that was from after a team dinner. We had wine in the parking lot and talked about life. You know, girl stuff." I remember thinking, who pours wine in a parking lot with plastic cups after a work meeting? I believed her then too. I didn't want to believe otherwise. Because if I believed anything else, I'd have to admit that the woman I built my life with, the woman I loved, trusted, and gave everything to, might be lying to my face. Might be cheating on me. That thought felt too big to hold. So instead, I buried it. For weeks. But now? Now it all felt like someone had pulled a thread and I was watching the whole sweater unravel in my hands. She started spending more time at the office. Her calendar, which used to be scattered with dentist appointments and reminders to call her mom, was suddenly packed with vague entries like strategy dinner or client prep. She started dressing differently. Less casual. More polished. Heels to work even though her feet always used to hurt in them. A new perfume I didn't recognize, sharp and floral, the kind that announces itself before you walk into a room. She even changed her passwords. When I asked about that, tried to joke, "Hey, what are you hiding from me, secret agent?" She just smiled thinly and said, "It's just for security. Work's cracking down on privacy." That was her go-to now. "It's just work." Every time I caught her smiling at a text, every time she took a call and left the room. Always just work. It became a mantra. Like if she said it enough, I'd stop asking. And I did. Because I was tired. Because asking didn't get me answers. It just got me a colder bed at night and a wife who kissed me like she was checking a box. There were nights when she'd come home late, long after dinner, claiming she had to stay to debrief. She always had a reason. Always had a story. And she delivered them so smoothly that for a while I felt crazy for doubting her. But now everything felt different. Sharper. Louder. That whisper in the bathroom wasn't just a moment, it was the missing puzzle piece. The one that finally made all the other pieces make sense. I started keeping mental notes. I didn't snoop, not yet. But I paid attention. Where she went. How long she was gone. What time she texted. What she wore. I began to feel like a stranger in my own life. A man standing outside the window watching someone else live in his house. It's hard to explain how betrayal feels when it's not confirmed, just suspected. You feel like you're losing your grip on reality. One part of you wants to believe in the person you love. The other part? It starts collecting evidence, even if it's just glances and perfume bottles and half-finished wine. I'd lie awake some nights, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, wondering if her dreams were of someone else. Wondering if she knew I knew. Wondering if she even cared. It's a kind of hell. The not knowing. The limbo. You want to confront her, but what if you're wrong? What if you ruin everything over nothing? But deep down, I knew it wasn't nothing. I knew I wasn't crazy. The signs were all there. The story had been unfolding in plain sight. I just refused to read it. And now every memory felt like a clue. Every late night. Every deflection. Every time she called me babe like it meant something. It was all pointing in one direction. And whether I wanted to face it or not, I was getting closer to the truth. I don't remember the exact moment I decided to follow her. It wasn't planned. There wasn't a dramatic aha moment or a lightning bolt of fury. It was quieter than that. More calculated. I think it was a Tuesday night. She walked in the door around 9:30, kicked off her heels like nothing was out of the ordinary, and said traffic was a nightmare. Some kind of wreck near the bridge, she added. She said it so casually, with one hand already reaching into the fridge, that I almost missed it. Except I'd been watching the traffic app all evening. No accident. Not even congestion. The roads were clear. And that was it. That's when something in me clicked. No more guessing. No more hoping it was in my head. I needed to know. So I waited until Friday. Friday was her usual dinner with coworkers night. Lately, those had been happening more and more. She always left the house dressed a little too sharp for just a work thing. Lipstick that left stains on mugs. Hair curled, not tied back like it usually was during the week. It wasn't how she used to go out. It was how she used to get ready for me. That Friday, she came downstairs wearing a black blouse I'd never seen before, tucked into high-waisted jeans that hugged her like a second skin. She looked beautiful. She knew it too. She lingered in front of the mirror longer than usual, swiping on gloss, fixing a single strand of hair like it mattered more than anything in the world. I'll be home late, she said, grabbing her bag and keys. Don't wait up. I smiled and told her to have a good time. She kissed me on the cheek. Just the cheek. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed my truck keys and followed, staying back a few car lengths. Just enough to be invisible. It wasn't hard. She didn't check her mirrors often. She drove across town, past the places where her office was, past the restaurants she usually named when she gave her explanations. No turns. No stops. Just a straight sh*T into a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Somewhere on the south side. Not a sketchy part of town, actually, kind of nice. Quiet. New builds. Low fences. She turned onto a side street and slowed down. I parked half a block away and K** led the engine. From my spot, I saw her pull into a driveway. A man stepped out from the front porch as her car rolled up, mid-30s maybe, fit with a smugness about the way he stood. He wasn't confused to see her. Wasn't surprised. No hesitation. He smiled, walked right up to her, and opened the door. She stepped out and they hugged. Not a polite, awkward hug. This one was close. Familiar. Her head tucked under his chin like she belonged there. Like they'd done this before. My stomach twisted into something unrecognizable. They walked inside together. The porch light flicked off. 15 minutes later, a light turned on in the upstairs bedroom. I just sat there. No shouting. No honking the horn or pounding on the door. That's not me. That's not how I wanted this to go. I was numb, but I was clear. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream into the steering wheel. It was like something inside me had gone cold. Like my body had already started building a wall around whatever pieces were left of my heart. I stayed in the truck until midnight. She never came out. No text. No check-in. She wasn't thinking about me. Not even a little. I drove home in silence. Didn't turn on the radio. Didn't look at my phone. Just drove with both hands on the wheel, thinking about how many lies it must have taken to get to this point. How many stories she had told, how many hours she had stolen. It wasn't even rage that I felt. It was grief. A weird kind of grief, not for her, but for the version of her I used to believe in. The version that looked at me like I was enough. That version didn't exist anymore. Or maybe she never did. When I got home, I walked straight into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared at the faucet while it ran. I didn't even drink it, just let it fill the sink. There was a picture of us on the counter, framed from our 8th anniversary. Hilton Head. We were smiling like we had everything figured out. I turned the frame face down and went to bed. She got home the next morning around 6:30 a.m. I heard the key turn, heard her shoes shuffle on the mat. She tried to be quiet, but not careful enough. I stayed in bed, eyes open, pretending to sleep. She crept in, changed clothes in the hallway, and slipped into bed next to me like it was just another Saturday. I didn't move. I didn't speak. She lay there in silence for a long time, facing away from me. Eventually, she reached out under the covers and touched my arm, just briefly, softly, maybe to check if I was awake, maybe out of guilt, or maybe to see if she could still reach me. She couldn't. Something had broken the night before, and this time it wasn't going to fix itself. The morning after I watched her walk out of another man's house, I packed my bag. Not all of it, just the essentials. A couple days' worth of clothes, my passport, the title to the truck, some family keepsakes. Things that mattered. Things I didn't want to see in her hands when it all came crashing down. I didn't tell her where I was going. Didn't leave in anger, didn't slam the door. I left a note on the kitchen counter in my neatest handwriting. I need time to think. No accusations. No guilt. Just distance. And silence. By the time she woke up, I was gone. I rented a small one-bedroom on the other side of town. Nothing fancy. Linoleum floors, dusty blinds, old fridge that rattled when it ran. But it had a lock she didn't have a key to. That was enough. It felt weird. At first, waking up in a space that didn't smell like her perfume or echo with her footsteps. But it was also calming. Like a fever had finally broken. For a while, she didn't even call. That part surprised me. I expected a panicked voicemail, maybe a teary text. But instead, nothing. Radio silence. Then I found out why. 2 days later, I got a call from my sister, Claire. She works at a local boutique, and she and Lauren had always been friendly, which made the sting even more. She came in this morning, Claire said, her voice cautious. Didn't seem too broken up. In fact, she paused. She laughed. Said you finally gave her some breathing room. I didn't say anything. She told one of the other girls she'd been hoping for this. That now she had more space. Said it like it was a joke. That hit harder than I thought it would. It's one thing to be betrayed. It's another thing to be mocked for it. I thanked Claire and hung up. I sat in that apartment alone that night, staring at the ceiling while my phone buzzed with social media updates. Lauren posting cocktails with little umbrellas, quotes about freedom and alignment and choosing yourself. I saw one that said, "Sometimes losing someone is the universe's way of making room." It had a sunset background and a wine glass emoji. I wasn't tagged, but I didn't have to be. She thought she'd won. Thought I'd walked away broken, tail between my legs, licking wounds while she celebrated like a teenager on spring break. What she didn't know was that every second I stayed silent, I was building something. Not revenge. Not yet. Just control. I spent the next week gathering bank statements, *TS, photos, texts, her location history synced to an old shared account we never properly disconnected. Little things I'd ignored before now told a story she'd never wanted me to see. She wasn't even careful. Messages calling me simple. Notes to her lover whose name I finally learned was Ian, saying I'd never grow a spine, that she could drain me dry in a divorce because he's too nice to fight. I sent them all to my lawyer. Because now I had one. His name was Martin, ex-military turned family attorney. Sharp suit, dead stare. Didn't flinch when I slid the folder across the table. "You're not the first man to sit here with this look in his eyes," he said. "But you're smart. You're moving quiet. That's rare." I just nodded. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted structure. Strategy. We talked through everything: joint accounts, property, her access to my business. "You'll want to shut down any shared lines of credit," Martin said. "Start documenting. Move assets you can prove you owned before marriage. You're not running. You're preparing. And that's what I did. I transferred the title of my auto shop to my cousin, Tyler, on paper at least. Tyler had worked with me for years and was one of the few people I trusted completely. I set up a new savings account in a different bank under my name only. Closed all shared credit cards. Even the Costco one. Meanwhile, Lauren kept posting. Brunches. Beach days. A picture of her feet by a pool with the caption. Resetting. Realigning. Reclaiming. I didn't like it. Didn't even hate it. I just watched her build a story for the world, a fantasy that she was thriving. And all the while, I was putting up walls around everything she thought she could reach. It was strange how easy it became once the emotion faded. I didn't miss her touch. I didn't miss her voice. What I missed was the idea of her, the person I thought I married. That person didn't exist anymore. Maybe she never had. I called Claire one night and told her the basics. Not everything. Just that it was over. That I had proof. That I was moving forward. She didn't ask for details. She just said, "I'm proud of you." The next day, I dropped off a manila envelope at Martin's office with everything we talked about: evidence, assets, accounts. All the tools he needed. Lauren still hadn't called. I figured maybe she thought I was taking a break. Going to come crawling back. Maybe she thought I was having a midlife crisis in a bachelor apartment and would show up on her doorstep with roses and apologies. She didn't know me anymore. She never really did. By the time she did call 10 days after I left, I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was sweet. Almost too sweet. "Hey babe. Just wondering how you're doing. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I miss you. Call me when you can." I listened once. Then deleted it. That was the first time I realized something strange. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was free. And freedom? That was worth more than anything she could offer now. I used to think heartbreak was loud. That it looked like shouting in the rain, dramatic fights in the driveway, or throwing dishes across the kitchen. But the real heartbreak, the kind that cuts slow and deep, is quiet. It's silent mornings in a borrowed apartment. It's unanswered calls. It's calm, deliberate decisions that don't make noise but change everything. By the time Lauren realized I wasn't coming back, the wheels were already turning. She called a second time, then a third. Left a few texts. "We need to talk. This is getting ridiculous. Don't do something you'll regret." Regret? I read that one twice. Then I laughed quietly alone in my truck because she had no idea how far ahead I already was. See, Lauren had gotten comfortable. Too comfortable. She got used to the lifestyle I gave her. The house, the dinners, the weekends away. She didn't care about the money when it flowed. Didn't ask where it came from, just how much more was coming. But now? Now the faucet was shutting off. And fast. The first thing I did was move every dollar I could out of our joint savings and into an account with only my name. My lawyer was meticulous, everything done by the book, everything traceable to my personal earnings or assets I had long before she ever came into the picture. She thought my auto shop was her golden parachute. She was wrong. The paperwork had already gone through. On paper, the shop belonged to my cousin Tyler now, thanks to a transfer of ownership that had been in process since before the separation. Legally clean. Authenticated, notarized, and filed. Tyler might not know how to rebuild a carburetor, but he knew how to hold the line. And when this was over, I'd get it back. Next, I shut down the joint credit cards. Every single one. The day after that, she tried to book a spa weekend. Declined. She must have panicked because not long after, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was her lawyer. "Mr. Hill," he started, all firm and formal. "My client, Lauren Hill, would like to begin preliminary discussions about the division of assets." I kept my voice steady. "That's fine. Have her attorney contact mine." There was a pause. Then he said, "She has concerns about the recent financial activity in your accounts." "I'm sure she does," I replied. That was the end of that conversation. A week later, we sat across from each other in a neutral office downtown. Her lawyer looked fresh out of law school. Mine looked like he'd been through 3 wars and was still waiting for a 4th. Lauren wore white. Not an accident. Innocence, purity, all that. She didn't meet my eyes at first. But when she finally did, there was a flicker of something there. Not shame. Not sadness. Annoyance. Like she was frustrated that I hadn't fallen apart the way she expected. They started with the basics: house, accounts, business equity. Her lawyer tried to push, said she was entitled to half the shop. Half the profits. Half the future. That's when Martin opened the folder. Inside were printed **TS of texts and emails, Lauren bragging to Ian about draining me dry, calling me naive, saying I'd never see it coming. Saying, and I quote, "Once I get my share, I'll be out of this marriage and the job. Then we can finally travel." My name wasn't in half the messages, but it didn't need to be. Her lawyer paled. Martin didn't raise his voice. He just slid the papers across the table and said, "This is your client's definition of amicable." Lauren's mouth dropped slightly. That was the first time I saw her facade break. The next 30 minutes were a blur of legal backpedaling and quick math. They stopped talking about her taking my business. They stopped talking about anything other than walking away without things getting worse. She tried to speak after. As we stood up, she said my name soft, like we were still something. I looked at her. Really looked. And I didn't feel anything. Not hate. Not anger. Just absence. She had expected a breakdown. Instead, she watched her control dissolve in silence. On the ride home, Martin chuckled for the first time. I've had clients cry, punch walls, take swings at each other. But you? You're the most dangerous kind. Why's that? I asked, I still on the road. Because you stayed quiet, he said. You didn't throw a fit. You built your case. And you walked in already knowing you'd won. I didn't respond. But in my chest, for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. I had stopped begging. Stopped chasing. Stopped playing a game I never asked to be part of. Lauren had tried to turn betrayal into leverage. And now she was watching it slip through her fingers.